Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the complexity and give you insights you can actually use. And today, we're tackling something huge for potentially millions of you listening, the IELTS exam. Maybe you're deep in preparation, maybe just starting to think about it, you might be feeling excited, maybe a bit overwhelmed. Well, our mission today is simple. Clear away the information overload. We're giving you a clear blueprint. We've dug into official test info, expert advice, even a really interesting community platform, all of it tailored to help you get informed, feel confident, and be truly ready. So let's unpack this. Before we get into the real nitty-gritty, what exactly is IELTS? It's a big name, but what's it all about, and why is it such a big deal globally?
Yeah, good place to start. So IELTS, that's the International English Language Testing System. It's basically a globally recognized test. It assesses your English skills across the four core areas: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Millions take it every year. It's often, a key requirement for university study, for migration, for professional jobs in English-speaking countries, kind of like a language passport.
Okay, a language passport. I like that. And the whole thing takes?
About 2 hours and 40 minutes, all in. And your score for each part, listening, reading, writing, speaking, is on a band scale from 0 to 9.
9 being the best score.
Exactly, 9 is the highest. And then your overall band score is just the average of those four. So it gives a pretty rounded picture of your English level.
Right. Comprehensive. But taking the test itself, it's not just one single way, is it? I know there are different options, which can be confusing.
That's a really important point. You've got a few main ways to do it. Most commonly, you go to a test center. And in the center, you can choose between IELTS on paper or IELTS on computer.
Okay, paper or computer. What's the difference there?
With paper, you get a physical test booklet for listening, reading, and writing, and you write your answers on a separate answer sheet. On computer, those same sections are displayed on screen, and you just type your answers directly in. Much more direct.
And the speaking test in those cases.
For both the paper and computer tests in a center, the speaking test is still a face-to-face interview with a certified examiner. A lot of people find that quite reassuring, actually.
Okay. But there's another option now, right? The online one.
Yes, exactly. IELTS Online. This one's only available for IELTS Academic, though. That's important. It lets you take the test from home or, any private space with good, reliable internet.
Same test content.
Identical. Same format, same questions, same timing, same marking. It's just delivered remotely. The speaking test is done via an online video call with an examiner.
But there's a catch, isn't there?
A really crucial one. You absolutely have to check if the university or the organization or the immigration department you're applying to actually accepts results from the remotely taken IELTS online test. Not all of them do yet. So, double checking that first is vital. Don't just assume.
Good warning. Okay, this next point feels really fundamental. It dictates the specific path you need to take. There are two main types of IELTS, and getting the difference right is absolutely key for your goals. You really don't want to prepare for the wrong test.
Oh, definitely not. That's a mistake you want to avoid. The two main modules are IELTS Academic and IELTS General Training.
Academic? Sounds like it's for students.
Precisely. IELTS Academic is designed for people wanting to study at university, either undergraduate or postgraduate level. It tests if you're ready for that kind of academic English environment.
And general training.
General training is more for practical, everyday contexts. So if you want to work in an English-speaking country, or do training below degree level, or migrate there.
But they both test the same skills: listening, reading, writing, speaking.
Yes, all four skills are tested in both. But, and this is the key difference, the content and style of the reading and writing sections are different. They're tailored to either the academic or the everyday context.
Okay, so reading and writing are where they really diverge. We'll definitely dig into that later.
Exactly. We'll explore those differences when we get to those sections.
Right. Let's start with listening then. This one's the same for both academic and general training, you said.
That's right. The listening section is identical for both modules, which simplifies things a bit.
Okay, so what does it involve? How's it structured?
It's made up of 4 parts, with a total of 40 questions. And importantly, each question is worth 1 mark. And here's a really crucial tip right away. There's no penalty for wrong answers. None at all.
Oh, really? So guess if you don't know?
Always. Always guess. Never leave a blank answer. You got nothing to lose, and you might just get it right.
Good to know. How long does it take?
The actual listening part, the audio recording, lasts for about 30 minutes. But then there's a slight difference in what happens next, depending on the test format. If you're doing IELTS on paper, You get an extra 10 minutes at the end, specifically to transfer your answers from the question booklet onto your official answer sheet.
10 minutes. Okay.
But if you're taking it on a computer, you're typing your answers as you go. So you only get 2 minutes at the very end just to quickly review your answers. No transfer needed.
Right. That makes sense. So those 4 parts, what kind of things do you hear?
They're designed to simulate different listening situations, and they generally get harder as you go. Part 1 is usually a conversation between 2 people in an everyday context, like someone phoning to book a hotel or ask about a service. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Part 2 is typically a monologue, just one person speaking again in an everyday social situation. Think maybe a tour guide giving information about a museum or someone explaining arrangements for an event.
Still fairly practical stuff.
Exactly. Then Part 3 ramps it up a bit. It's usually a discussion between up to 4 people, often in an educational or training setting, like university students discussing a project, or a tutor talking with students. More complex interaction.
Right, following multiple speakers.
Yeah. And finally, Part 4 is another monologue, but this time it's academic in nature. Usually a university-style lecture or talk on an academic subject. Could be anything from environmental science to history.
So it covers a real range, from daily life to academia. What about the questions themselves? What types pop up?
There's quite a variety. You'll get standard, multiple choice, sometimes choosing one from 3 options, A, B, C. Sometimes maybe selecting 2 answers from 5 options. You'll also see matching tasks, maybe matching speakers to opinions or places on a map to labels.
Maps and diagrams, too.
Yes, definitely informous. Labeling a plan, map, or diagram is common. And then various completion tasks, filling gaps in forms, notes, tables, flowcharts, or summaries. Plus sentence completion and straightforward short answer questions, where you just write a brief answer based on what you hear.
Okay, quite a mix. Now, you mentioned strategies earlier. What really helps people succeed in listening beyond just, understanding English?
There's a massive strategic advantage that many people miss. It's about using the dead time effectively. You get about 30 seconds after each section to check your answers for that section. And there's also intro time before the next section starts, maybe around 1:45 total across the test.
So what should you do then?
Instead of just sitting there, use all that time, the checking time and the instruction time, to pre-read the questions for the next section. It gives you a huge head start because you know what information to listen out for, you're anticipating, it's totally allowed, and it's a game changer.
That makes a lot of sense. Being proactive. What else?
Another really key thing, the questions always come in the order per name. The information is presented in the recording. Always.
Oh, that's helpful.
Hugely helpful. It means you can follow along. Once you've answered question 5, question 6 is coming up next in the audio. So keep moving forward, which leads to the next point. The information is never repeated. You only hear it once.
So if you miss something,
move on. Seriously, don't get stuck trying to remember or figure out an answer you missed. If you do, you'll likely miss the next few answers as well. Just make your best guess if you have to, and refocus on the next question immediately.
Okay, ruthless efficiency. What about actually writing the answers? Any tips there?
Pay super close attention to the instructions, especially word limits. If it says no more than 2 words and/or a number, stick to it precisely. Go over, and you lose the mark, even if the info is right.
Right. Word limits are strict.
Very strict. Spelling also counts, but the good news is they accept both British and American spelling. So don't stress too much about which Z or ES to use. One practical tip for the paper-based test. Write your answers in all CCAP-ES on the answer sheet. It just makes it much clearer for the examiner to read. Less chance of ambiguity.
And on computer?
On computer, just use normal upper and lower case as appropriate. The system handles it fine.
Okay. And for practice, what's the best approach? Just do lots of tests.
Quality over quantity. Definitely use official Cambridge English practice tests. The recent ones, say from book 15 onwards, are the most reliable. Avoid unofficial tests. They can be misleading or the wrong difficulty level.
And after taking a practice test,
this is the most important part. Review your mistakes meticulously. Don't just count how many you got right or wrong. Use the audio scripts, usually found at the back of the practice test book. Go back to every question you got wrong and figure out why.
Why? Like what kind of reasons?
Was it a simple spelling mistake? Did you misunderstand a particular accent? Was it a tricky question type, like multiple choice with distractors? Did you fall for a trap where they mentioned the wrong answer clearly before giving the right one? Understanding the reason for the error is how you improve. It tells you what specifically to work on.
That makes sense. Targeted improvement. How about improving listening skills more generally?
Yeah, beyond test tactics, a great 2-step method is 1. Listen to a recording, pause when you don't understand something, find that phrase in the transcript, really grasp the meaning, then listen to that bit again. Link the sound to the meaning. 2. After you've done that micro-listening, listen to the whole recording again straight through without the transcript. This really trains your brain.
What about accents?
Definitely train your ear for the main ones. British, American, Australian, Canadian, those are the most common you'll hear. Don't worry too much about very strong regional ones like, say, heavy Scottish or Irish. They tend to use more standard accents. And just immerse yourself. Listen to English every day. Audiobooks, podcasts, reputable news sources like the BBC or NPR. They often have clearer pronunciation than, say, some movies or random YouTube videos, making them excellent practice material.
It's fascinating how strategic listening has to be. It's not passive at all. You mentioned multiple choice can be tough. Even with these strategies, how do you listening right now make sure you nail those harder questions, but also don't drop easy points elsewhere?
That's the crux of it, really, the balance.
Yep.
While those trippy multiple-choice questions, especially the choose 2 from 5 type, need specific practice, you absolutely cannot neglect the easier question types, things like form completion or short answers. You need to aim for 100% accuracy on those. Think of them as your foundation.
Bank the easy points.
Exactly. Secure those points reliably. That gives you a buffer, a bit of breathing room for when you hit those more complex multiple choice or matching tasks. So the takeaway is prepare thoroughly for all question types. Understand the demands of each one. Don't just focus on what seems hardest. Master the basics to give yourself the best possible chance overall.
Right, build a strong base. Okay, let's shift gears to reading. If listening is about anticipating, you said reading is often where the clock becomes the biggest enemy. Tell us about that section.
Yeah, reading is definitely a race against time for many people. You've got 3 reading passages, 40 questions in total, and exactly 60 minutes to read the text and answer all the questions. And this is where IELTS academic and general training really show their differences. The texts are fundamentally different.
How so?
Academic reading uses extracts from academic sources, think textbooks, journals, research articles, serious magazines. The language is more complex, the topics more abstract, reflecting what you'd encounter at university.
Makes sense. And general training.
General training reading uses materials you'd find in everyday life or work situations. Things like company handbooks, official documents, advertisements, notices, newspaper articles, travel brochures. Much more practical, less dense usually.
So the difficulty level is different.
Generally, yes. The general training texts and questions are considered a bit easier overall. But, and this is a crucial scoring point because it's easier, you need to get more questions right in general training to achieve the same band score as someone taking academic.
Oh, really? Can you give an example?
Sure. For instance, to get a band 7 in reading, you might need around 30 correct answers in academic. But for general training, you likely need about 34 correct answers to hit that same band 7.
Wow, that's a significant difference. 4 whole points.
It is. And for band 8, it might be 35 correct in academic versus maybe 38 in general training. So the threshold is higher in GT. You need to be aware of that when setting your goals and practicing.
Okay. So the biggest challenges you mentioned were time management and certain question types like true, false, not given. Let's tackle time first. 60 minutes for 3 texts and 40 questions. How do you manage that?
First, ditch the idea of spending exactly 20 minutes on each section. That's the common trap.
Why is it a trap?
Because the sections aren't equally difficult.
Yeah.
Section 1 is usually the most straightforward, often descriptive, factual. Section 3 is typically the most complex and challenging. So a better strategy is to aim for about 15 minutes on Section 1. Get through it efficiently. That banks you extra time.
To use on the harder sections later.
Exactly. Now you can afford to spend maybe 23 minutes each on Section 2 and Section 3, where the texts and questions are likely to be more demanding. That strategic allocation can make a massive difference.
Smart. What else for timing?
Rule number 2, don't get bogged down. If a question is stumping you, taking too long, make a note, skip it, and move on. Come back later if you have time. Remember, every question is worth just 1 point. It's better to answer 35 questions than spend 10 minutes stuck on one really hard one and only answer 30. Maximize your points.
Sensible. And keeping track of time.
Be vigilant. If you're on paper, the invigilator usually only gives 10-minute and 5-minute warnings. That's not enough. Write down your start time on the question paper and keep glancing at the clock. Be your own timekeeper.
And transferring answers.
Nope.
Different from listening, right?
Critically different. In reading, there's no extra time at the end to transfer answers on the paper-based test. 0. You have to write your answers on the answer sheet within the 60 minutes.
So when should you do that?
2 main ways. Either transfer your answers after you finish each section, so after section 1, transfer those answers, etc., or my preferred method, keep track on the question paper and stop everything with about 5 minutes to go, then transfer all 40 answers carefully in one go.
And on computer?
On computer, it's easier. You just click or type the answers directly, so no separate transfer time needed. That's a small built-in advantage.
And practice makes perfect for pacing.
Absolutely essential. You must practice reading under strict time conditions using official Cambridge tests again. The more recent ones, say 50 and up for reading focus, are best. Get used to that 60-minute pressure.
Okay, so timing is crucial. How about actually approaching the passages and questions? What's the best way in?
The questions first approach usually works best for most people.
How does that work?
Start by reading the title and any subtitles of the passage, just to get a very general idea of the topic. Then immediately look at the questions for the first section. Read the first question carefully. Then skim the passage relatively quickly, looking for the section that contains the answer to that question. Once you think you found the right area, slow down and read those sentences carefully to confirm the answer.
And this works because?
Because most IELTS reading question types follow the order of the information in the passage. Not all, as we'll discuss, but many do. So question 1's answer will appear before question 2's answer, and so on. This helps you navigate efficiently.
What about difficult vocabulary? Texts can be quite dense.
You will encounter words you don't know. Accept it, don't panic. Focus on the overall meaning of the sentence or paragraph. Often you can understand the main point, even if you don't know every single word. Don't let unknown words derail you, especially if they don't seem central to answering the specific question you're working on. Use context clues.
Now, you mentioned tricks to avoid. What common advice is actually bad advice?
Okay, one popular one is, just read the first and last sentence of each paragraph. While that might give a vague gist, it's usually terrible for answering specific questions accurately. The answer often lies in the details within the paragraph. Even for matching headings, this is often insufficient.
So you need to read more deeply.
Yes. Another bad habit is scanning only for exact keywords from the question. IELTS is full of paraphrasing. They'll use synonyms, different grammatical structures. If you only look for the exact word, you'll likely miss the answer entirely.
So scan for ideas, not just words.
Exactly. Understand the concept the question is asking about, then look for that concept expressed in the text, perhaps using different words. Read the relevant parts properly. Scanning is useful for locating information quickly once you know what you're looking for, or for things like names and dates.
Should you highlight or underline?
Definitely. On paper, underline or circle key information, names, dates, places, technical terms. On the computer test, use the built-in highlight function. It helps you find things again quickly if you need to check back.
How can you speed up the actual answering process once you've located the relevant text?
Analyze the question and the options very carefully. Often the difference between the right answer and a distractor is just one subtle word or detail. Don't rush the analysis. Look for those keywords, or their paraphrased forms, in both the question and the passage, and use the process of elimination. Actively cross out or dismiss answer choices you know are wrong. This increases your odds significantly.
And if you're really stuck?
Take an educated guess. Never, ever leave an answer blank. No penalty for wrong answers, only points lost for blanks. Always fill something in.
Okay, this next bit sounds crucial. You said understanding which question types come in order and which don't is key. Can you break that down?
This is vital strategic knowledge. Knowing the order helps you navigate. Questions that generally do come in order include true, false, not given, yes, not given, usually, but watch out if they're right at the end. All types of fill-in-the-blanks or completion tasks, notes, summaries, tables, standard multiple choice, one answer from 4 options, and importantly, sentence endings. That's the only matching type that consistently follows the text order.
Okay, so you can follow along with those. Which ones are the rebels? The out-of-order ones?
Right. These require a different approach because the answers could be anywhere in the passage. The main culprits are matching headings, often seen as the hardest. The answer for paragraph C's heading might come before you've even read paragraph B properly.
Strategy for those?
Read the first paragraph, then look through all the heading options, find the best fit, then move to the next paragraph. Don't try to do them sequentially with the text. Also out of order. Matching paragraphs, which paragraph contains this specific piece of information.
Yeah.
And matching information, like matching researchers' names to their findings.
Tip for matching names.
Scan the whole text first and highlight all the names mentioned. Then when you tackle the questions, you can quickly locate the relevant sections for each person. Also, multiple choice with more than one correct answer, like choose 2 from 5, can sometimes be out of order. And just be aware, even a type that's normally in order, like yes, not given, might not be if it appears right at the very end of section 3.
Okay. Knowing that distinction seems like it could save a lot of panic and wasted time.
It really can. It allows you to approach each question set with the right strategy from the start.
So, beyond test tactics, how do you fundamentally get better at reading for IELTS?
Again, learn from your mistakes. After practice tests, analyze why you got reading questions wrong. Was it vocabulary? Misinterpreting the question? Trouble with true-false not given logic? Identifying patterns is key. Boost your reading speed and stamina by reading widely in English every single day. For academic, focus on academic journals, quality newspapers like The Guardian, BBC News Online, science articles. For general training, read practical things, work emails, instructions, news articles, website FAQs, job descriptions, and build your vocabulary actively. When you read, note down useful words and phrases, especially synonyms and topic-specific vocabulary. Use a vocabulary notebook or app. It's a long game, but incredibly effective.
It really does sound like being a detective, like you said. It's not just reading, it's decoding, strategizing, managing time. It's a complex skill.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It combines language proficiency with critical thinking and test-taking skills. It's challenging, yes, but also very learnable with the right approach and consistent, focused practice. You really can train yourself to navigate it effectively.
Okay, let's move on to writing. This section tests your ability to produce clear, well-structured, written English. 2 tasks, right? And different ones depending on the module.
That's right. The writing section has 2 tasks, and you get a total of 60 minutes for both. But how you use that time is absolutely critical. You must aim for about 20 minutes on task 1 and dedicate the remaining 40 minutes to task 2.
Why such a specific split?
Because task 2 is worth twice as many marks as task 1. It contributes 2/3 of your total writing score. Spending too long on task 1 is a very common and costly mistake.
Got it. 20 minutes for task 1, 40 for task 2. Where do you write?
Directly onto the answer sheet provided. You can make notes or plan on the question paper, but the final answer must be on the official sheet.
Okay, so task 1, what's involved? You said it differs.
It does. For IELTS Academic Task 1, you'll be given some visual information, maybe a line graph, bar chart, pie chart, table, map, or a diagram showing a process. Your job is to describe that information in your own words. Summarize the main trends, highlight key features, make comparisons where relevant. Minimum 150 words. No opinions allowed, just objective description.
And for general training task 1?
For IELTS General Training Task 1, you have to write a letter. Again, minimum 150 words. The situation will be given in the prompt, and you'll need to respond accordingly. It could be a formal letter, like complaining to a company, a semi-formal letter, like writing to a neighbor or a colleague you know slightly, or an informal letter, like writing to a good friend.
Okay, so describing data versus writing a letter. And task 2?
Task 2 is the essay, and this is the same for both academic and general training candidates. You need to write at least 250 words in response to a specific question or statement.
And this is the one worth double points, needing 40 minutes.
Precisely. It's the heavyweight of the writing section.
Let's really dig into that task 2 essay then, since it's so important for everyone. How is it marked? What are examiners looking for?
Okay, there are 4 assessment criteria, each worth 25% of the task 2 marks. First is task response. This basically asks, did you answer the question fully? Did you address all parts of the prompt? Are your ideas relevant to the topic? Are they well developed and supported with examples or explanations?
So staying on topic and developing your points.
Exactly. Second is coherence and cohesion. This is about organization and flow. Is your essay logical? Do the ideas connect smoothly? Are your paragraphs well structured? Do you use linking words and phrases effectively, like however, in addition, as a result, both within and between sentences and paragraphs?
Making it easy to read and follow the argument.
Precisely. The third criterion is lexical resource, which is your vocabulary. Examiners look for a good range of words used accurately and appropriately. Can you use less common words correctly? Can you paraphrase effectively, saying the same thing using different words, instead of just repeating words from the question?
But not just throwing in big words unnaturally.
Definitely not. Natural and accurate usage is key. Trying too hard with fancy words often leads to mistakes or sounds awkward. Use the vocabulary you know well and appropriately.
Okay. And the fourth criterion?
That's grammatical range and accuracy. This looks at your ability to use a variety of grammatical structures, simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences like conditionals, relative clauses, passive voice, and of course how accurately you use them.
Are minor mistakes okay?
Some minor slips are expected, even for high-level speakers, but frequent errors that impede communication will lower your score. Aim for accuracy and show you can control different sentence structures. If you notice a mistake as you write, quickly correct it. That actually shows good awareness.
Right. So those 4 criteria cover ideas, structure, vocabulary, and grammar. What kinds of essay questions actually appear in Task 2?
There are essentially 5 main types you might encounter. 1. 2 direct questions. The prompt gives a statement and then asks 2 specific questions about it, like, why is this happening? What can be done to solve it? You need to answer both. 2. Advantages and disadvantages. You might be asked to discuss the pros and cons of something, perhaps saying if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. 3. Discuss both views and give your opinion. The prompt presents 2 opposing viewpoints, and you need to explore both sides fairly before clearly stating and justifying your own opinion. 4. Opinion essay. Agree or disagree. This asks directly for your opinion on a statement. To what extent do you agree or disagree? You need a clear stance supported throughout the essay. 5. Problem solution. The prompt outlines a problem, and you need to discuss the causes and suggest possible solutions.
Knowing those types must really help with planning. Is there a recommended structure that works for most of them?
Yes, a clear 4-paragraph structure is generally very effective and provides a solid framework for almost any Task 2 question. Paragraph 1 is the introduction. Briefly introduce the topic, paraphrase the question, state the essay's purpose, and crucially, if the question asks for your opinion, state it clearly here.
Get your main point across up front.
Exactly. Paragraphs 2 and 3 are the body paragraphs. Each paragraph should focus on a main idea supporting your argument or addressing a part of the question. Use a clear structure within each. Start with a topic sentence stating the main point, then provide explanation, examples, or evidence to support it.
Topic sentence, explain, example. Got it.
It keeps your ideas focused and well-developed. Keep the ideas relatively simple but well-explained. Show clear links between cause and effect or problem and solution. Paragraph 4 is the conclusion. This should be short, maybe 2 sentences. Briefly summarize your main points and restate your overall position if appropriate. Don't introduce any new ideas here, just wrap it up neatly.
Simple and clear. Okay, let's circle back to Task 1 academic, describing the charts and diagrams. You mentioned the overview is crucial.
Absolutely critical for getting a band 7 or higher. Your introduction for Task 1 academic must include an overview sentence. This sentence should summarize the main trend, overall pattern, key differences, or main stages shown in the visual without quoting specific data points or figures yet.
So the big picture first.
Precisely. For example, overall, the graph shows a significant increase in X, while Y experienced a steady decline over the period. Or, for a map, overall, the main change plan for the town center involves the pedestrianization of the high street and the construction of a new car park.
And the structure after the intro.
Introduction, paraphrase question plus overview, then 2 or 3 body paragraphs giving the specific details, figures, and comparisons, grouping information logically. No conclusion paragraph is needed for Task 1.
What about vocabulary for describing data?
Use synonyms effectively to avoid repetition. Example, increase, rise, growth, climb. Use precise vocabulary for trends, rose sharply, fluctuated slightly, remained stable. Use accurate prepositions and adverbs, increase by 10%, fell to 50 units. Vary how you present data percentages, fractions, a quarter, 3/4 numbers. Use appropriate language for comparisons, higher than, similar to, in contrast.
And for maps or processes?
For maps showing changes, use grammar accurately to describe future plans, is expected to be built, will be relocated, passive voice is common, or past changes. For process diagrams, state the overall purpose and key stages in the overview. Then describe each step sequentially using linking words, first, next, then after that, finally, subsequently, to show the flow.
Okay, that's clear. Now for Task 1 general training, the letter, you said the tone is key.
Hugely important. The absolute first thing you must decide is this letter formal, semi-formal, or informal? Your entire language choice depends on this.
How do you decide?
Based on who you're writing to and why. Writing to the manager of a company you don't know. Formal. Writing to your neighbor about a noisy party. Probably semi-formal. You know them, but it's a serious matter. Writing to your best friend to invite them over. Informal.
And getting the tone wrong is bad.
Yes, inconsistencies in tone will lower your score significantly. You need to maintain the appropriate level of formality throughout the entire letter, from the greeting to the sign-off.
Can you give some examples of formal versus informal language?
Sure. Greeting. Informal might be, "Hi, John," or "Hope you're doing well." Formal would be, "Dear Sir, Madam," or "Dear Mr. Smith." Opening. Informal. Just want to tell you about. Formal. I am writing to inform you. Complain about request. Vocabulary. Informal. Kids. Stuff. Awesome. Fed up. Formal. Children. Belongings. Satisfactory. Dissatisfied. Use more precise, less emotional language formally. Grammar. Avoid contractions. Don't. Can't. Informal letters. Use the full forms. Do not. Cannot. The passive voice often sounds more formal. The decision's been made versus we decided. Closing. Informal. Best. Cheers. Lots of love. Formal. Yours sincerely, if you use their name, or yours faithfully, if you started with Dear Sir, Madame.
Okay, big differences. And the structure.
Standard letter format.
Yeah.
Greeting. Then address each of the bullet points given in the prompt in separate paragraphs. Aim for roughly equal length for each point, developing them with enough detail. Then a suitable closing in your name.
3 bullet points, usually.
Yes, usually 3 things you need to cover in the body of the letter. Make sure you address all of them fully.
What about semi-formal? That sounds tricky.
It is the trickiest. It's a balance. You need to be polite and respectful, but not as stiff as a fully formal letter. You might use some contractions, but avoid slang. It often helps to invent a little context. Are you writing to an older neighbor, a younger colleague? That helps set the appropriate tone.
This writing section has so many layers. Considering task 2 is worth double, what's the one thing you listening really need to focus on for writing success?
Honestly, it comes back to those 2 fundamentals. Time management, strictly 20 minutes for task 1, 40 for task 2, and deeply understanding the assessment criteria. Know exactly what earns points for task response, coherence, cohesion, vocabulary, and grammar in both tasks. For task 2, know the essay structures. For task 1, academic, nail that overview and data description. For task 1, general, master the tone. Focus your practice there, get feedback, and you'll see improvement.
Excellent advice. Right, last section, speaking. The face-to-face or screen-to-screen part. This is where you get to show your conversational skills live, often the most nerve-wracking part.
It can be, yes, but it's designed to be a natural conversation, not an interrogation. It lasts between 11 and 14 minutes, and it's broken into 3 parts. And first impressions do count a little. Greet the examiner politely, smile, introduce yourself clearly, have your ID ready. It just helps start things off smoothly.
Okay, the 3 parts. What happens in each?
Part 1 is like a gentle warm-up interview. The examiner asks you questions about familiar topics yourself, your home, family, work, studies, hobbies. Pretty straightforward questions. This lasts about 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, getting comfortable then. Part 2.
Part 2 is the long turn. You get a task card with a topic like, describe a book you recently read. You have exactly 1 minute to think and make notes. Then you have to speak about that topic for 1 to 2 minutes continuously.
1 to 2 minutes. Sounds like a long time.
It can feel like it.
Yeah.
The examiner will stop you when the time is up. After you finish, they might ask 1 or 2 brief follow-up questions related to what you said.
And part 3.
Part 3 follows on from the topic in part 2, but becomes a more abstract, two-way discussion. The examiner asks broader, more analytical questions related to the part 2 theme. So if part 2 was about a book, part 3 might be about reading habits in society, the future of libraries, censorship. This also lasts 4 to 5 minutes. Is your chance to show more complex thinking and language.
Okay, clear structure. How is speaking assessed? What are the examiners listening for across these 3 parts?
Similar to writing, there are 4 criteria, equally weighted.
Yeah.
1, fluency and coherence. This is about speaking smoothly, at a natural pace, without too much hesitation or self-correction that makes it hard to follow. It's also about connecting your ideas logically, using linking words. So, because also...
How do you show good fluency?
A key aspect is extending your answers. Don't just give short, minimal replies, especially in parts 1 and 3. Aim for answers of maybe 20-30 seconds in part 1, adding reasons or examples. In part 3, develop your points more fully, maybe up to a minute per answer, exploring the issues. And in part 2, try to keep talking for the full 2 minutes, covering all the points on the card in a logical way.
What if you need time to think? Is pausing bad?
Natural pauses are fine. Everyone pauses sometimes. What helps is using filler phrases or time-to-think phrases strategically. Things like, well, let me see, or that's an interesting question, or to be honest, or actually. These keep the conversation flowing while you gather your thoughts. Just don't overuse one particular phrase like, that's an interesting question, for every single question.
Okay, use thinking time fillers naturally. What's the second criterion?
2, lexical resource your vocabulary again. Show you have a good range of words and phrases relevant to the topics. Can you use some less common words or idiomatic expressions naturally and correctly?
Idioms, like raining cats and dogs.
Well, maybe avoid very old cliches like that one, but natural idioms like I was feeling a bit under the weather or it cost an arm and a leg can be good if used correctly and appropriately. The main thing is range and precision. Also, can you paraphrase? If you forget a word, can you explain it in another way?
Yeah.
Like, it's a thing you used to. That shows flexibility.
So wide range, accurate use,
Oh,
ability to paraphrase.
ver-
Third criterion.
3. Grammatical range and accuracy. Similar to writing, can you use a variety of sentence structures, simple and complex? Can you use different tenses correctly? Modals, might, could, should. Conditionals, if, passive voice. And crucially, how accurate is your grammar?
Again, our mistakes, okay.
Minor slips that don't affect understanding are generally fine. Everyone makes them. Frequent errors, especially basic ones, will lower the score. The goal is clear communication using a good range of structures accurately most of the time. Don't be afraid to correct yourself if you notice a mistake. It shows good monitoring.
Focus on communication over perfection. And the last one.
4. Pronunciation. This isn't about having a specific accent. It's about being clear and easy to understand. Can you pronounce individual sounds clearly? Do you use appropriate stress on words and sentences to convey meaning? Is your rhythm natural? Do you use intonation, the rise and fall of your voice, effectively? Avoid speaking in a flat monotone.
So clarity and natural rhythm, not accent elimination.
Exactly. Be intelligible. Speak at a natural pace, not too fast, not too slow. Articulate clearly.
Okay, those 4 criteria cover a lot. How can someone best practice for the speaking test?
Study model answers to see what good responses sound like. Practice answering typical questions for all 3 parts. And definitely record yourself speaking. It can be painful to listen back, but it's the best way to hear your own fluency issues, grammar mistakes, vocabulary gaps, and pronunciation problems.
What about practicing with others?
Highly recommended. Find a speaking partner. Another learner, perhaps. You can find people through online language exchange sites or community groups. We mentioned Telegram earlier. Searching for #partner can sometimes connect you. Practice doing mock tests together. And even just talking to yourself in English for 10-15 minutes a day helps. Describe what you're doing, talk about your opinions on the news. It builds fluency and confidence.
So for you listening, it seems speaking is less about memorizing answers and more about developing genuine conversational ability within the test format. It's about showing how you communicate.
Precisely. It's demonstrating your ability to use English flexibly and effectively in real-time conversation. Consistent, focused practice targeting all 4 criteria, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, is the path to improving your score and your confidence.
Okay, we've covered a huge amount of ground strategies for listening, reading, writing, speaking, but connecting it all, making it stick, finding consistent practice, how can you integrate all this and maybe even make prep, dare I say, enjoyable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where leveraging a community can be incredibly powerful. A platform like HappyTalk.in is a fantastic example of how you can put all these expert strategies into practice in a supportive, engaging way.
HappyTalk.in. Tell us more about that.
So HappyTalk.in is essentially a language learning and communication platform. It's designed specifically to help people improve their English speaking skills by connecting them with real people from around the world for live conversation. The whole environment is built to be judgment-free and friendly. It's for everyone, students prepping for exams like IELTS, job seekers needing interview practice, professionals wanting to communicate better, even just shy learners who want to build confidence. And importantly, it's completely free.
Free and community-driven. How does that tie into IELTS prep specifically?
It aligns perfectly with the core principles we've discussed. Their mission is to make practice accessible, social, and enjoyable, based on the idea that communication builds confidence and confidence opens doors, which is exactly what IELTS aims to facilitate.
So how would you use HappyTalk.in based on our discussion today?
Okay, let's link it back. Remember we talked about seeking assistance and finding partners? HappyTalk.in directly addresses that. You can find global speaking partners there specifically to practice IELTS tasks, maybe run through Part 2 topics, discuss Part 3 questions. You can find mentors for feedback. They even have live Q&A rooms where you can ask about test strategies.
So instant access to practice partners. What about reading and listening?
We emphasize building those habits through wide reading and listening. HappyTalk.in supports this through its discussion rooms. You can join topic-based chats, maybe about news articles you've read, documentaries you've watched. This reinforces vocabulary and comprehension in a natural conversational context. They have podcast-style audio rooms, too, exposing you to different voices and topics, which is great practice for the listening test formats, like understanding main ideas or specific details. You could even share and discuss articles in text rooms to build reading speed and comprehension collaboratively.
And the crucial step of reviewing mistakes.
Yes, practice and purposeful review. They facilitate this, too. Communities on HappyTalk.in sometimes run mock IELTS reading and listening sessions, and then crucially have follow-up discussions where people can analyze why they made mistakes, learning from each other. You can use peer review, share your practice answers, and get feedback from others on why you might have missed certain questions, particularly for things like true, false, not given. They even have guided chats focused on practicing specific, tricky question types.
What about the productive skills writing and speaking feedback? That's often hard to get.
This is where a community platform can be really valuable. HappyTalk.in has dedicated spaces where you can share your practice essays or letters, task 1 and 2, and get feedback from peers or mentors on things like task achievement, structure, grammar, vocabulary mapping directly onto those official criteria.
And for speech.
You can practice mock speaking tests with partners, maybe even record short segments, and ask for feedback on your fluency, pronunciation, use of linking words, or those time-to-think phrases we talked about. The platform's tools can even help you track your progress and identify recurring errors you need to fix.
It sounds like it turns solitary study into a more interactive, supported process.
Exactly. It provides that real conversation practice. It's accessible 24/7 because it's global, it's moderated to be safe and supportive, and they're even adding gamification soon to keep motivation high. It really embodies that idea of learning through doing together.
They even have a structured plan
Yeah.
integrating the platform, right?
Yes, they propose something like a 30-day IELTS prep plan with HappyTalk.in as an example. It maps out how you could use the platform's features week by week alongside your other study to systematically build skills. Week 1 might focus on understanding the format and building input habits using audio rooms and daily articles. Week 2 could target reading and writing tasks 2 using mock tests and essay feedback rooms. Week 3 might hone listening and speaking part 23 using practice partners and recording feedback. And week 4 could be about full mock tests and polishing weaknesses using varied chat rooms. It makes the whole process less daunting.
That's incredibly practical. So to wrap up this deep dive, we've journeyed through all 4 IELTS sections, unpacked key strategies, highlighted common pitfalls, and explored how community platforms like HappyTalk.in can genuinely transform your preparation. It's clear that while IELTS can seem like a huge mountain to climb, with focused, smart practice applying the insights we've shared and leveraging the right tools and support, you absolutely can reach your target score. It's about strategy as much as language. Now for you, listening right now, here's our final thought. From everything we've discussed today, what's the one insight that stands out most for your own IELTS journey? And more importantly, what single habit will you commit to starting today to make your English practice more connected, more social, perhaps even more enjoyable? Give that some thought. And maybe check out a platform like HappyTalk.in. Remember their core idea: talk, learn, grow.